Natasha Hausdorff, 4 minutes on the clock. Your closing statement, please.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we've heard a lot about freedom of speech this evening, and I think it's important to clarify that Douglas and I aren't here to silence anyone. We're just here for the proper identification of what we've been hearing from the opposition, and that is anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism. And let me be clear, I do not blame the whole world for the venomous hatred that Israel is currently being subject to. I blame the opposition and the blood libels that they have peddled in this evening. Gideon began with a statement of his credentials. Perhaps I should do the same. I sit in front of you as the granddaughter of Palestinians. Living under the British, they had identity cards issued to them that identified them as Palestinians, nationals of the British Mandate. Think on that the next time you hear people trying to revise history and tell you what Palestinians are today and suggest that that is equivalent to what existed before the State of Israel was formed. We have heard hostility to the State of Israel from the moment that Gideon got up. The suggestion that a gathering like this would be out of place in the Jewish state is preposterous. I've attended many myself. And you have the most rigorous, robust debate imaginable in Israel. More so, I would suggest, than anywhere in the world. But if the opposition really cared about Palestinians in the way that they profess, they would be calling, as I do, for Egypt to comply with its international law obligations, those that it signed up to in the African Union Convention on Refugees, which it acceded to in 1980, Egypt's responsibility to allow safe passage for refugees fleeing civil disorder in Gaza. Israel has gone above and beyond, and other modern militaries frequently say we wouldn't be able to meet the standards that Israel sets in the precautions that it takes. But it has had to move those civilians, or encourage them to move, it doesn't control them, to evacuate, to provide humanitarian corridors. When you think of the ease with which those civilians could be properly provided for the other side of the border with Egypt, in Egyptian Rafah, where the aid that Israel is facilitating into the Gaza Strip wouldn't be diverted and stolen by Hamas, where aid workers would be able to assist them without being targeted by Hamas. I haven't heard any of that from the opposition today, and that is another reason that I say to you, what they are putting forward, the blood libels that they are peddling in, is anti-Zionism. And we also saw it in that comment from Gideon, give it back, referring to the West Bank. It's the settlers, the settlers. That call for the West Bank, or Judea and Samaria, to be Jew-free, as so much of the rest of the Arab world, Judenrein. We've heard that before, ladies and gentlemen. We were told because Jews in the 20th century differed about whether the creation of the State of Israel was a good idea, that was a reason that Jews couldn't be anti-Semitic if they were anti-Zionist. Well, I urge you to consider a debate between parents, which might be entirely legitimate as to whether or not to have a child. There may be arguments for and against, reasonable ones. But once that child is born, to suggest that it should be gotten rid of would be murder. That is what we have heard advocated by the opposition today. And so I ask you, if you are, as Israel, liberal, care about peace, and abhor racism, you will stand with the proposition this evening.